This is Dr. Ed Hoskins welcoming you to Lessons in Discipleship, a series designed to help new believers become established in the Christian faith. In this series, we want to talk about what is a disciple of Jesus. First, let me tell you a little about myself. I'm a retired physician. I spent 34 years in family medicine and student health. I became a Christian 50 years ago, but I was helped early in my faith by a group called the Navigators, an international non-denominational Christian organization whose goal is to know Christ and to make him known. I've been on associate staff with that organization since 1980. Lessons in Discipleship is a compilation of what I've learned during that time from the Bible and under the direction of the Navigators. Today's session, what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. There may be a few questions you're asking about discipleship. What is the main characteristic of a disciple? What do they look like? Second, is discipleship being, or is it doing, or is it both? Finally, what are the costs of being a disciple? Well, first off, a disciple is a learner, one who is taught by another who is more experienced. One of the most interesting places is that there are 6 places where Jesus himself uses the word my disciple or my disciples. First 3 are in the Gospel of John. John 8:31, Jesus said, "If you abide in my word, then you are truly disciples of mine." A disciple lives in God's word. In other words, a disciple obeys Jesus. Second, John 13:35, Jesus said, "All men will know that you are my disciples if you love one another." This is the hallmark of disciple of Jesus, sacrificial agape love. Third, John 15:8, Jesus said, "By this is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit, and so prove to be my disciples." A disciple bears much fruit. What kind of fruit is this? Well, obviously it's spiritual fruit. Most important kinds are other people coming into God's kingdom, the expansion of God's kingdom. But even more important is the character things, the fruits of the Spirit listed in Galatians 5:22 and 23. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Jesus also gives a few warnings of what can actually hinder us in being a disciple. And these 3 are in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 14. Verse 26, Jesus said, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own family, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple." Let's be honest here. Does this mean that Jesus wants us to go out and hate our relatives? Of course not. What it does mean is that in comparison with our love for Christ, all other relationships, including family, appear like hate. Another potential hindrance. Jesus said in verse 27 of the same chapter, "Whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple." Let's be honest here. The cross, it was an instrument of death. Jesus is talking about personal ambition and self-love. And basically, Jesus was saying, "Come and die with me." A final potential hindrance is given in verse 33. Jesus said, "So therefore, no one of you can be my disciple who does not give up all his own possessions." Does that mean that Jesus wants us to go out and liquidate everything we possess so that we become a beggar on the streets? No, it doesn't mean that at all. What it does mean is that everything we own belongs to Jesus for his use, for the purpose of expanding his kingdom. Here's another look at discipleship. When Jesus sent out his 12 disciples, Matthew chapter 10, he gave them specific instructions. Verses 6-8, he said, "Rather go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and as you go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. Freely you received, freely give." So what does this involve? It's talking about sharing Jesus' message with all people outside. It also means meeting the basic needs of others. Does this mean that everyone who follows Jesus is going to be casting out demons and cleansing lepers? No, but it does mean that we're to be involved in spreading his message. We're also involved in meeting the needs of other people around us. But there's another potential problem here. Following Jesus is not easy or comfortable or even safe. In Matthew chapter 10, Jesus was also instructing his disciples. He warned them, I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. Therefore, be shrewd as serpents and innocent as doves. In that same chapter, he says, brother will deliver up brother to death, and a father his child. You will be hated by all on account of my name. There's going to be opposition. And he says, a disciple is not above his teacher. It is enough for the disciple that he become as his teacher. I think that last part is really important. That the most important result of discipleship, the disciple becomes like Jesus. Let's summarize what we've talked about in this brief session. First, a disciple of Jesus is a learner, one who is taught by others. In this case, they're taught by Jesus. Second, a disciple spends time with Jesus in his word and in prayer. A disciple becomes like Jesus. Third, some activities of a disciple. Well, evangelism, that's sharing the message of Christ, the gospel, as well as meeting the needs of those around us. Fourth, a disciple is not focused on money or possessions. Everything we do have belongs to Jesus for his use. Fifth, discipleship may involve persecution. Some believers will even die for their faith. We must be prepared for this. We must prepare other people for this. Sixth, the hallmark of a disciple of Jesus is sacrificial agape love. Seventh, discipleship is not just a one and done, one-time deal. It's a lifelong process. Well, see you next time for another session of Lessons in Discipleship, where we cover basic assurances for a new believer. Well, this wraps up this session of Lessons in Discipleship. We'll see you next time, and until then, keep following Jesus. He's worth it.